Hey, this is Dave Pryor. Welcome to Drunken PM Radio. We might be live somewhere. We're not really sure. Riverside is a little confusing this morning. John Tanner's here. John, thank you for making time in your day.
Always time for you, Dave.
And we are less than 2 weeks away from giving our talk at Agile 2026. The talk is called When AI Starts Doing Your Job, Surviving the PM Identity Crisis. Just to get it all out there up front, this is going to be on Monday, the 27th at 3:15 p.m. I don't know what room, but we're going to be coming right after Marina Alex and Maria Sheck. And I'll kick off where this talk came from, and then I'm going to toss it to you, John, so you can talk a little bit about where things are going.
Awesome.
So 6-8 months ago, I was super stressed about AI because I didn't really have a position on it. I figured I don't want to be the prompt guy. There's always going to be somebody that knows more about that than me. I'm going to get the developer to do that stuff. I just need to know how to manage a project. And the more I kept hearing that, no, that's not actually the deal. I have to actually learn this stuff, the more stressed I got because it's so overwhelming. I didn't know where to start. So I talked to you about it, went through your certification program, and I got a really good grounding in understanding a lot of the things that I'd need to know to think about AI in an enterprise. I got the PMI AI certification, and going through that, which was really intense and a wonderful knowledge base of stuff, I had a lot more depth. It kind of built on some of the stuff that I'd picked up from you, added a lot more to it. And the whole time through, I kept saying, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do. And in talking with you about it, you'd showed me something in Claude where you'd set up a Kanban board. And that, like, I don't know what it was about that, seeing that you had done that, sparked something from me. I was like, oh, I don't have to be a prompt guy building an entire whole thing. I could just do some of the stuff I normally do in AI and start to get my feet wet with it that way. So a lot of the talk is aimed at people like me who are scared, intimidated, overwhelmed, stressed out. What do we do to get started? But also about where things are going. So can you talk a little bit about the role that you've taken on and what you're trying to do with introducing AI into the organization?
Yeah, it's been a crazy interesting ride over the past few months as we said the talk is submitted and it gets accepted. And then I went and took a position. I'm leading the technology PMO for a Fortune 120 company. And we're doing a lot of the things that you and I are going to talk about in our session. The modernization play has always been something I'm passionate about. When I worked at Freddie Mac, it was in the modernization group leading that. Any Fortune 500 I've ever touched, it's been about modernization. And then you go back to federal time I spent there, always modernizing how organizational practices are. And it's always in the PM stack or the delivery engine stack. Like, how do we do the stuff so stuff gets done better? In in the PMO space I'm in now, it's an interesting opportunity because they're going AI native and they're taking a lot of those practices that we would traditionally see done manually, and we're having PMs do them in an augmented way. So the role really is, how do you modernize a Fortune 200 companies project management practices to do all the things that we need it to do and support the project managers and program managers. And one thing I do want to make clear up front with that is, I don't staff for AI person. I don't staff for developer person. I staff for program managers, but probably under the list of requirements is they have familiarity with the GitHub or modern LLMs enough that they've Googled it and understand what it does. So it's shifting some of the tools we're going to be using, but the job itself is project and program management. We're just kind of modernizing it.
So I want to add something to that. I think one of the things I did early on was I asked Claude, how much of my job can you do right now? And it was like 90%. Basically,
Yeah.
all it left was me sitting in a room staring at people's faces and figuring out what their facial expressions meant. But there's a lot more to it than that. And I think one of the things that I've come to understand more about is how I can leverage these tools to either gain greater insight into what's going on or do some of that stuff faster. So I'll throw out my example and then you can talk about the larger scale version of it.
Yeah.
I had a client who was overwhelming their staff. people were completely overbooked, plus spending like 6 hours a day in meetings, plus constantly being told by their boss, well, Claude just answered all the questions. So just do what Claude said. Like, I hired somebody with 30 years of experience, but just do what Claude told you to do. Um, I needed a way to show to this executive, this is how their time is being spent. So I just had them track in Slack, like, this is how many hours I spent on these different activities, and gathering that data and generating different types of reports until I got one I liked, pie charts or whatever, showing how the time is being split in a way that would speak to that stakeholder. 10 years ago, that would have taken me a week. It took me an hour to
Yeah.
get to something that was feasible. So that it to me, it's like those little things like that that show you how, without a lot of skill, you can start to use this stuff to get experience with it, to save yourself time, to give greater information to the people you're responsible to.
Yeah. When I when I look at AI, I always look at how does it improve or augment human workflows, the things we do. And I'm all about the history of how we got where we are. And if you look at project management, most people complain that it is a blocker to productivity, slows down development, puts too many gates, becomes compliance as a job, like all those sorts of things. And we did kind of get there with software engineering. It's why the whole Agile movement came along. We went from you've got to have this enormous BRD that you have to have gates on, and nothing moves until that BRD is done until Scrum came along and said, actually, give us that BRD. We'll iterate through it. So don't go
Right.
do months of functional requirement stuff. Give me your business approval. I'll put it in my backlog and we'll iterate. And then over time, that kind of turned into project managers are the enemy, and our job got really wishy washy. And we didn't have compliance teeth because that would slow down delivery. But then we also didn't have a real job anymore. We became glorified scrum masters in a lot of parts. Like, who's tracking that the BRD meets business compliant needs? Who's tracking the budget that we're spending on FTEs and vendors and all the things that project managers do? But it's because our tools and our ability to operate did not match the pace of delivery. What
Okay.
this does, what AI does is resets and levels the playing field to where all of the rigor that we put into DevOps for engineering, like all of that discipline, it now exists in the PM domain as well. I can do a massive BRD if I want to, if I choose to operate that way, and I can do it in minutes versus days because I can pull all the inputs that go into it from all the places all together and then hand that to delivery if that's how they choose to operate. All the stuff that we used to do to make sure the program worked well. Do I have my BRD? Do I have my functionals? Do I have my non functionals, my technical? If we're going through QA, are all my stakeholders updated? And I have tools that make that feasible to do without slowing down delivery. So I'm seeing a reversal in the enterprise, not moving away from project management, moving back into what project management was supposed to be. Are we on time? Do we have the cost under control? Do we understand our vendor relationships? All those sorts of things. They want more visibility, and there's literally only one stack to go to get the right stuff, and that's the project management stack. So the modern PMO, we do what we've always done. We just have way better tools to be able to do it rapidly and keep up with the pace of delivery.
Yeah. One of the things that you had said to me initially when I was talking about my I'm not the prompt guy was you are prompt driven. Like, somebody has to ask you for something and then you can find an answer.
Yep.
And I am similar in that, like, I don't care what the project is, just give me the project. Like, tell me what you want to do. We'll figure it out. But that idea of like, what should we do? I'm like, I don't know. Um,
No clue. No clue until somebody asks me for a dashboard. That
right.
dashboard will not be in my brain. Yeah.
But where I think that there's opportunity here, and this is what helped me get over some of that fear was of like, how do I get started in this overwhelming landscape? Um, this allows me to be creative faster
Yeah.
and to try different things faster, and I don't have to wait all that time. And also, it's a really great sounding board. So even just using it to find where are the holes in this presentation or in this strategy about how I'm going to explain to this stakeholder why they can't have 6 weeks of work in the next 7 days.
Right.
Um, it's really, really helpful there. And my hope for people coming out of this talk is that we just give them lots of ideas of places they could get started and see what's possible.
Yeah. It's It's like anything else until you've at least gone through it once and had your aha moment or it finally clicks for you. It's hard. Not only is it intimidating, it's like I don't want to break stuff. but it's also just difficult to know where to go with it because you don't know what it's capable of. If somebody hands you a brand new tool you've never used, you might go bang it against a coconut to see what it does, right? But it's probably not the intended use unless it's a coconut banger. I don't know. Bad analogy. But in this space, somebody gives you this and goes, "This is the most powerful tool man has ever created. How fun." Like,
Here's fire.
here's fire. That is the perfect example. Here's fire. Try not to burn yourself. It's that, but as soon as you start taking it down to a specific like personal use case, let me try and see if it can help me do a thing. And then you see if it helps you do that thing or not. And if it doesn't, you don't force it. You move on to the next thing, but you've learned what it can't do. Experiment with it and learn. Where I find project managers struggling is they think they have to become the AI person, and that's really not what it is. You need to be a project manager that thinks like a project manager that uses AI like your personal staff to collect the data and bring you the insights and format the stuff that you need to do the project management job. You don't work for AI, it works for you, and it lies a lot. So you have to be the source of truth, not the machine.
Yeah.
So there's a if you think of it as assistants and staff aug and some of the more modern stuff where you've got these agents you can build that do bring you quality, like you start thinking more in terms of what is that dream state PMO project management team I always wish I had? And which parts of that team can I outsource to AI? And then you become this moving force throughout the enterprise because with the support of agentic workforce behind you, you're one of the most important players in the building. You can tell people what things cost. You can tell the executives how on track we truly are. You can get all the
Yeah.
data you need in a way that they can accept it because you don't have to figure out what slide 34 has to say for them to really get the point. Yeah.
I think one thing to me that's important to add too is that maybe it's two sides of it. If it was fire, right? Um, Fire's scary. We have to figure out what to do with it. If you're going to start using AI to take on some of your job, don't make it take the parts that you like. Give
Yeah.
it the parts that you don't like. I think that's one of the like failure patterns. At least it was for me. I started trying to like eliminate things I enjoy. But I talked to somebody who just took a job as like a senior VP of AI at this company, and she was like, "Everybody thinks that I know what I'm doing because I'm in this job." She's like, "I have no idea. Nobody in AI has any idea what they're doing because it's
Absolutely.
all changing so fast. None of us can keep up with it. It doesn't matter whether you're starting today or you started 5 years ago. Seth Altman's
Yeah.
figuring it out. Like, they're all figuring it out." So,
If if you remember, I mean, I was a coder in the late 90s. So as the agile thing kicked off and we put a phrase to it, it was exciting times. I had my own
mhm,
little things. I was like, oh, this is a new agile way. It's like rapid prototyping with, with iterative review. And then my boss looks at me and goes, that's crystal. We've done it for a long time and you're doing it wrong. Right. But I was excited because it was new and we're thinking of things in a new way. It's the same feeling again. I'd gotten kind of burned out on where we were because it felt like we were solving the same problems for,
yeah,
20 years. We were just, it was maybe slight improvement. A lot of ways it was backtracking. We were losing the discipline we had. This is new. And the field is growing and not shrinking because of it. I have more requests for project managers and what looks like project managers called other things and program managers than I've ever had in my career. And it's all coming right now because the downstream side of it is think of an engineering workflow now. They pop open their Claude code, they tell it, go do these steps in order. Claude code goes and executes. They review the code. They maybe pull open an actual code file and say, actually fix this part, right? They're working with their peer to get it done. The very first step was go do these things. So the go do these things part is what the PMO has always been good at. We're not product. We don't build the product roadmap, but we do
right,
make sure these things are feasible to sustain with our vendor contracts and that we actually connected it to strategic budget, right? Those tokens go somewhere, that our people were actually authorized to work on it because it's in the CTO's roadmap. Like all the things that project management does is there, but we're not necessarily going to go get on the phone with every single person and review every single system of record. We're going to have our little agent buddy doing the things we need. I need to know the actuals versus the forecast for this program that's 6 months along so I can tell CTO if we're actually getting the ROI, if we're still projected to, or if I need to cut my losses. We're doing all
yeah,
the analysis we always did, just with cooler tools, man. And it meets the pace of delivery. my big BRD that I can now generate in a day from true sources coming into it, development can deliver in a day. And then we're all looking at the finished product together. If we hold them up, that's where there's a problem. If they can't deliver, there's a problem. But we're
Right.
equals again. We're not the huge lag up front. We're partners again, and it's starting to show. Enterprises are recognizing it.
Yeah. So this is great. And I think for anybody who's considering attending, which you should absolutely come to our talk at the Agile conference in Baltimore or Washington, D.C. It's technically Baltimore on the 27th at 3:15 p.m. Eastern time. Um, if you're somebody who is struggling with figuring out how to get your feet with AI, how to get past the overwhelm, what kind of stuff could you do with it? What should you do with it? If that is just a completely daunting thing, that's what this talk is for. We will make it easier for you to get started, easier for you to figure out a path to not just use it in your personal management, but also at the PMO level as well.
Yeah.
Um,
It's it's all of it, right? It's daily workflow stuff all the way up to enterprise heartbeat stuff. And we've always had that. Business analyst or project analyst or maybe project orchestrator to project manager, program manager, PMO lead. Like we've got that stack. Every single one of those has some use case. At the enterprise level, it's the big dashboards. At the project level, it's just are we healthy and on track? At the orchestrator level, it's helped me collate this data and information, right? There's different use cases, but I don't expect my project orchestrator to go do PMO leadership stuff or vice versa. So you got to find the thing that's important to you. And there's no rule book. Nobody's going to hand you the guide and say, use AI in this way with your job. You're going to have a conversation with AI to figure out how it's going to help you in your job. And then you're going to use the tools that the enterprise provides. There's probably some skills or automations or whatever. But the first thing you can do is like, I don't know. What I always find, Dave, is like, what's the most pain in my butt thing? And then I go talk to the AI about how can it help me with that pain in the butt thing. Give me an honest analysis. I hate filling out any slides at all, ever. I think slides should have died 20 years ago. I like live reporting sort of things. So what I automate first is like, how do I get out of that slide deck I'm presenting to leadership and put true data on a dashboard, right? There's
yeah.
no way. I don't have a team of 20 developers to help me develop an executive dashboard, but I can get Claude to help me figure out what that would look like and what the real data sources would be and build the requirements. And then if I got the right license, I'll go code it myself because it's
Yeah.
not a system of record yet, right? I can code anything that's not a system of record.
Yeah.
And I'll make it the system of record if the executives like it because I don't like slide decks. I find my use cases that are my biggest pains in the butt and then I go get AI to help me solve for that. Otherwise, there's no rule book. There might be policy, but that's not a rule book. Like that's not
Well,
a what you should go do.
but even if there are policies right now, everything's shifting so fast. I mean, like think like when
Yeah,
we put the submission together for this talk, like the whole world's different since
it
well,
is. We
not
had
not the whole
Fable,
world. There's parts
but
that still suck, but the
think about
AI
it.
world's very different.
We had Fable launch under Claude, which was pulled back because the US put an export control on it, which is now back out, but it's out in a different way. And then GPT launched 5.6, and who knows what Google's up to. And that's in the past weeks, much less months. And then 3 months from now, I don't know, when we've all got our Neuralink AI connectors or something, it'll all be different again.
Well, I'll be
The
summoning Claude from Slack in 6
yeah,
months.
the to me, the interesting use case is though, once you know how to use the tool, it's all the same. It doesn't matter what LLM, you're gonna have your preferences. Some are better at some things than other things. But figure out your use case, go play with it, get comfortable. Just like if you know Word, you can probably work in like the whatever the Mac equivalent is. I don't even know right now. But if you know what a document application does, you can probably work in all of them. It's just the tools are different. Same thing with AI. Figure out your use case. Use the tool enough you're comfortable, and then you can swap to the next one. But focus on your job, man. Like your job is a project manager. Your job's not AI. AI is
Yeah.
a tool. It's an augmentation to what you do. Nothing changes. Nothing changes with the job other than the tool you're using.
Yeah. Cool. If people want to get in touch with you, if they want to learn more about PMO as code or any of the stuff
Yeah.
that you're doing, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah. A couple of places.
Other
LinkedIn.
than the Agile conference, which they should all come to.
Of course, they should show up. And you know what I love? And I'm actually this is gonna sound desperate. I love at the end of a talk when I'm done and I'm ready to come off, two or three people just come up and even if it's just a thumbs up, that they just go, that was good. But I also love when they go, "Oh, you're entirely wrong." And I've had those that are more productive. So don't feel like you're gonna bother us after the talk if you come up and wanna talk. We wanna talk with you too. But I
Yeah,
always love that. I love the good conversations that come from it. But the best place to find me, LinkedIn, Tanner JS out there. You can just search me by name. I'm out there. And then if you want to learn more about PMO as code, just go to pmoascode.com. We started this whole open source thing. You can contribute your own ideas. There's how to things. It's a lot there. So don't get overwhelmed. But it's kind of where the movement is going. How do we get the PMO fully modernized to use this AI stuff and help us do the job? And you'll notice we say things like BRD, PRD, NFR, like all that stuff. How do you get AI involved to make your job easier? But it's a project management support group, all open source, including the standard. Go check it out, pmoascode.com.
cool. Thanks. And you can find me on LinkedIn too. I'll have links in the show notes to this. But John, I'll see you in a week and a half.
Yeah, if not sooner.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.